Heads up 20 ups, it's Tuesday, and I don't have much to say, but we'll see how this goes. Don't listen to me. I'm a legend of archery. Don't listen to me. So, Rima, you talked about how you had just bought all of John Green's books, and I have a confession to make that I've not actually read any of his books. I was sitting in Barnes & Noble once and started reading Paper Towns and got maybe 100 pages in and then had to leave and didn't actually go anywhere. But I have bought his books. I've not read them, and I bought them as gifts for a friend of mine who's in grad school to be a children's librarian, and I was like, have you heard of John Green? And she watches some of the Vlogbrother videos, particularly the ones that I send her, and I was like, so you need to read these books. If you're going to be a children's librarian, you should of course know who John Green is. So I've bought them and given them as gifts, but not read them. I get her feedback on them, and probably at some point we'll read them. Lucy, as far as Little Mermaid goes, definitely with TJ on the I would view her as a cultural anthropologist. I mean, she collects all of these things, and so you could view it as a hoarder situation because they don't have any purpose in her life. But she does want to know what they're for, and in her mind, she knows what they're for because now I can't remember the name of the other character that she goes to ask what they do and what they are called. And so in her mind, she's totally aware of what each of these items is and what their purpose is, which makes her more along the anthropologist side than just this is a weird funky thing, I'm going to collect it. That's how I would view that anyway. I mean, yes, okay, so there are issues with Disney movies, but as Jin said, Disney movies are ones that you don't want to overanalyze because they're your childhood Disney movies, and I prefer going back and looking at them and listening to the music and going, oh, holy crap, Alan Menken is a genius with his lyrics, and it's awesome, and yeah, it makes me speechless because classic Disney is awesome, as evidenced by that poster there, which it was a calendar, and then I took all the pages out at the end of the year and made it into a poster. So I've got my classic Disney movies that I get to look at all the time and stay. So yeah, Craig, the one-man band thing, that's freaking awesome. And so I was trying to think of things that you could add to it. You've got your bass, you've got your snare, you can sing, and you've got your guitar. So there's no reason why you couldn't add a hi-hat. You could do double pedal kind of a thing going on between the hi-hat and your snare, or your bass and your hi-hat. When I've been busking, I've seen a lot of people who just lay a tambourine out on the ground and they stomp that. No reason you couldn't add that. I'm just throwing things out there because it's fun. A kazoo you could add if you're not planning on singing. I'm just throwing things out. But it was very cool. I would never have thought to set up a snare drum like that. And so it got me thinking, as somebody who wants to be a band teacher, how do you use the percussion instruments that you have, and how do you use them to create different sounds and to do things in a different way than you would normally do, or the way that they are manufactured to be used, which is always a lot of fun. TJ, movies. I love movies. So you brought up movies, therefore I'm going to talk about movies briefly. I haven't actually seen True Grit, and I really wanted to see it. I didn't actually know that it was a remake initially. I just really wanted to see it. So I haven't seen the original. I haven't seen the new one. It's on my list of movies to see at some point. But I was really curious as to why you were so staunchly opposed to going to see Avatar. I have seen it. I actually saw it twice in theaters, but both times were with my dad, and then we were with another family who hadn't seen it and wanted to see it. So it was a social thing, not it was so good we had to go back and see it a second time. And while I didn't like the story, I went. My dad is a big fan of James Cameron's work, and him having not really done anything since Titanic, he was very intrigued as to what this would be, and the art of it and the music is is why I went and saw it a second time, and why I can come out and say X, Y, and Z were total crap about the movie, and remakes of bazillion other movies that have already been done and totally pointless and useless. But he did really amazing things with the art and the animation that we haven't necessarily seen before, that are kind of pulling things in. And I don't like 3D, and I'm not a fan that it kicked off this sort of huge wave of 3D. But the way that the 3D was done there was so much better, and gave me small glimmers of hope of what 3D might at some point become, if they decide that they have to do all 3D, which I really, really hope they stop doing 3D. That I would love it if they would stop. But yeah, so I'm curious as to what your issues against Avatar were, because it was a generally enjoyable movie. But art, animation, music, all of that is just as big a component of a film, in my mind, as the plot or the actors. I really liked your point about how you're not necessarily against remake of films because they allow for new actors to kind of get their names out. I've not thought about it that way before. Generally, I'm very, no, why did they remake this movie? Why? There was no need. But there are lots of people who get their starts in remakes, and I've not ever thought about that. So I think that's all I have to say this week. I enjoyed hearing all of you talk, and I am glad to hear that James is okay. I will echo that sentiment, and I will see you all next week. And Rima, I will see you tomorrow. DFTBA.